JB Cycles with another video. I have to do one every day now, so this one you won't see this anywhere else. Now I can show you ABC patterns and trend lines and so on, but the thing is, I know things about cycles that no one else knows about, or at least they don't tell you about it. But I'm going to show you. And this is where I may find some clues that may help us understand the market better. And I'm going to talk about the 17-week cycle. The 17-week cycle is actually the tidal cycle of Jupiter and Venus, and when they are online with the Sun, they produce tidal forces. And there's a connection between this planetary cycle and geomagnetic activity on Earth and the stock market. And what we see is if we start here, when Venus is in opposition to Jupiter, on both sides of the Sun, that's a bullish condition for the market. Green here. That's where we start at this point. It's bullish for the stock market, and when looking at the geomagnetic activity in blue, we see it is rising. And when Venus comes to this point, then we see we have starting to get a lot of geomagnetic activity. That means solar storms, and then it becomes bearish for the stock market. And it stays bearish for the stock market until Venus is in conjunction with Jupiter. And we see in this bearish period we have a lot of solar storms. So now we are conjunct, and again then a bullish period begins. And then we have this orange dotted line. That's the distribution of solar storms on Earth through this cycle, and we see it's almost identical. So the solar storms are distributed on Earth at the same way when Venus is on this side or on this side. The Earth is not included here. The Earth can be anywhere. Here I'm focusing only on these two planets and the effect it has on that we can measure on Earth, and the cycle we can see in the stock market. Now, if we look at this red line is the tidal cycle. The red line has nothing to do with the stock market. It's just a calculation of mass and distance and planets, and I had inverted it. So down here we have planetary opposition or conjunction, and then I calculated the average stock market through this cycle, and that's in blue. And you see, it's pretty much identical. So here's the cycle now compared with the S&P, and I have, with green lines, I have marked where we are today. And you see the cycle is still bearish. And I'm looking at some analog situations marked with these blue rectangles. I'm going back to the first bearish cycle of the previous bear market. I have skipped the COVID crash, but that could very well have included that one. I have included these two in 2018, 19, and I have this from 2015, 2011, 2010, 2007, and 1998. If you look here, you see the stock market. It has a cycle over here, and then here, and to 1998, and a low there, and there, and there, and there, and there, and there, there. It's there all the way. But sometimes it can get messy. Like here at the end of bear markets, often we have a half cycle, the market thinks it's going to do another bearish cycle, but then it's changing its mind, and no, stop, wait, it's not enough bearishness. So you have and if you look at 2007, we have a cycle low 2006. Here you can't see it. That happens when the market is very bullish. Low here and 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 there and there, and so it goes on. So what does it look like right now? Again, these green lines show where we are today in the cycle. You see, the cycle is bearish pretty much, well, into second half of May. If we go back, you see this is one cycle back. Here we still had some correction left. Here we had an early low, an early low. That happens often in strong bullish trends. The lows are a bit early. And sometimes, like here, you can't even see, you hardly see any low in the cycle, in the stock market. Then we have this low extended by the Palestine-Israel unrest. And over here, sometimes, that's one of the reasons people have difficulties finding this cycle. But because sometimes it is kind of hiding, because you have this nice low, but then here it's messed up. And this, you hardly see this one. Anyway, you have this nice low in this previous bear market, nice low here, nice low there, and here. And comparing, where are we now in the cycle at this point? Well, here, still bearish before a bigger bounce. And here, well, just before we crash down. And here, well, almost getting close to a bottom formation. But like here, is, I'd say I wouldn't trust this to be a low. And here we have a low, very bullish, hardly see any low, a low here, a low here, a low here, and the COVID crash. So, I showed you these rectangles. I have picked some analogs, and I can divide them in two groups. This is a cycle in nature, and I can't say for sure that the geomagnetic activity is what is influencing the stock market. It could be that both the geomagnetism and the stock market are both influenced by some other measure that I haven't found yet, and maybe the solar storms have nothing to do with the stock market, but they are both pointing to something. They are correlated to the same thing. And the stock market can enter this cycle always a little bit different, depending on the bigger cycles and the initial conditions in every cycle. And you can, when you compare these, you can divide them into groups and say, well, maybe there's like 3 or 4 different classes or groups of how this cycle typically behaves, how the stock market behaves through this cycle. And well, I picked this group of analogs, and I'm finding 2 groups here. So you have these again. 1998 and 2011 shows up. They had a very similar pattern, and the reason is because they have behaved very similar through this cycle. And you see all these 3 analogs. This is on Monday. I have extended from yesterday into Sunday, and you see they had a bounce into about Fed meeting next week, and then they went down. Then we have these other groups. They typically they topped out a little bit later and made the low a little bit later. So when I make an average of these 2, in red is the first, the best average, which is most similar, and it should suggest we should top out around Monday and then make the final low. This other group is in green. They typically make a top later and they bottom out later. So from this, I'm coming to the same conclusion as in my post earlier today. I think we are very close to ending this bounce and should go down to make a low. Bye bye.